Hey guys, welcome back. A number of new polls have been released over this past day. Going to be taking a look at 9 new polls in this video. If you'd like to take a deep dive into the numbers for yourself, I'll have links for these resources posted down in the video description. And if there's some resource that I can compare these against, I'm going to go through the differences from the most recent numbers compared to where we had been. So we're going to start here with the national polls. This one coming from The Hill and Harris X. And the percentage change that we're getting here is in comparison to a little over a week ago, a sample size in this instance of 470 respondents. And we can see that Bernie Sanders has taken a step forward where he gained 6 points. He's in first place at 28% of support, followed by Michael Bloomberg, who's at 19. He gains a point. Biden loses a couple points to 17. Buttigieg picks up a couple points to 12. Warren recedes back 4 points, now at 8. And then you have Klobuchar and Steyer each at 3 percentage points, and Gabbard is there at 2 percentage points. So now moving on to the next national poll. This one coming from Ipsos in comparison to the poll that they had released a week ago, the sample size of 2,244. We can see Sanders is leading the pack among all registered voters here at 26 percentage points. He picks up 1 point from the all registered voters a week ago. Bloomberg in second place at 15 along with Joe Biden, and Bloomberg loses 2 points while Biden actually picks up 2 points from where we were a week ago. They're tied in that second place slot. And then fourth place, there's a tie between Elizabeth Warren and Pete Buttigieg, where each of them are registering 10 percentage points. And Warren picks up 1 point, whereas Buttigieg lost 1 point. Klobuchar is there at 4 points. She loses 1 point. And then Tom Steyer is at 3 points. He stays flat with Tulsi Gabbard at 1. And now moving over to the last national poll, this one coming from The Economist and YouGov. And this is also in comparison to the poll that they had released about a week ago, a sample size here of 550. Bernie Sanders leading the pack at 30%. He picks up 6 points from just a week ago. And we can see this in these polls where he's picking up something in the way of support. And that's probably because of the boost that he got post the Nevada debate, as well as obviously post the Nevada caucus results are probably playing into this. Biden in second place at 20%. He picks up 2 points. Warren stays flat at 16. Bloomberg loses 1 point to 11. Buttigieg loses 2 points to 9. Gabbard picks up 2 points to 4. Kind of an outlier poll there where she's up to 4%, tied with Amy Klobuchar, who loses 3% in this instance. Now I have a lot of state-specific polls to run through. The next 2 are coming out of the state of South Carolina. And this first result coming from East Carolina University, a sample size of 1,142, and this is in comparison to the prior poll that they had released on February 13. And we can see that Biden is in first place, leading the pack at 31%. He picks up 3 points. Bernie Sanders in second place at 23. He also gains 3 percentage points. Tom Steyer picks up 6 points, where he's now up to 20% of support, and then all the other individuals are in single digits, where you have Warren at 8. She picks up 1 point. Pete Buttigieg at 6, he loses 2 points. Amy Klobuchar actually loses 5 points, now down to just 2%. Probably some of that based on the weakness that we saw from her in Nevada over this past week. And then Tulsi Gabbard there, she picks up a point at 2 percentage points. Now the next South Carolina poll comes out of the University of Clemson, and we don't have a source to compare it against, but in this instance, a little bit different, very positive for Joe Biden, where he is leading this one, bringing in 35% of support, whereas Tom Steyer is in second place with 17%. And then it's not listed here, but the rest of this poll, you have Bernie Sanders at just 13%. I'd be surprised if Bernie wasn't at least able to reach the 15 percentage point threshold across the state of South Carolina. We'll see if that plays out in his favor or not, or if he's going to do what this poll says, where he's right there at 13, Buttigieg at 8, and Warren at 8. But it also is worth noting that the average of the South Carolina polls has Bernie above Steyer, but this is an instance where they have flipped, and Steyer was there at 17, and Bernie followed him at 13, with Buttigieg and Warren each at 8 percentage points behind them. Now we have a couple of California polls that are both looking very bullish for the Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders. So this is a Change Research poll, a sample size of 1,069, and this is in comparison to the prior poll that they had out of California, which came out at the end of January 27th to be exact. Bernie Sanders running away with this one. He picks up 6 points from the prior result. He's sitting there up at 37%, almost lapping the field. And then Elizabeth Warren in second place at 20%. She picks up a couple of points. Biden recedes back about 5 points. He's sitting there at 12. Buttigieg picks up a point to 11. Michael Bloomberg picks up a point to around 6. Amy Klobuchar picks up a point to 5. Andrew Yang, obviously no longer in the race. He was registering 4% in this instance, and Tom Steyer there at 3%. He picks up a point. The next California poll coming from Point Blank, and this is a sample size of 2,098. We don't have a prior result to compare it to. Another very strong sign here for Bernie Sanders. He leads the way at 34% of support, and then actually none of the other candidates getting above that 15 percentage point threshold. If this is what actually happened on Election Day in the state of California, then Bernie would run away with the number of pledged delegates received from that key important state that has the most pledged delegates out of any state up for grabs. And then following him, you have Warren at 13%, Michael Bloomberg at 11%, along with Joe Biden, Pete Buttigieg at 9%, Amy Klobuchar at 4 percentage points, Tom Steyer at 3%, and then also Tulsi Gabbard a bit lower than that. The next poll is from Public Policy Polling, a sample size of 1,045 coming out of the state of Texas, and it's a tie at the top between Biden and Sanders, each of them at 24 percentage points respectively. And then you have Michael Bloomberg there at 17, Elizabeth Warren is there at 14, Pete Buttigieg at 10, Amy Klobuchar at 4, and then you have Tom Steyer and Tulsi Gabbard each registering 1 percentage point in this Texas poll. And then finally, we have a poll out of the state of Washington from Elway Research, a sample size of 404. We don't have another example to compare this one to, but Sanders leading the way at 21%, followed by Michael Bloomberg at 15%, Elizabeth Warren and Amy Klobuchar each at 11%, followed by Biden, who's at 10%, and Pete Buttigieg at 9%, with Tulsi Gabbard at 1%. So those are all of the new polls that I wanted to go through, and again, if you'd like to take a deeper dive into the numbers for yourself, I'll have links posted down in the video description. In general, some very positive signs for the Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders in terms of continuing to gain in a number of these national polls, and actually the 3 national polls we went over from the sources of HarrisX, Ipsos, and YouGov haven't necessarily been great national polling sources from Bernie over this past year, but he's even starting to perform really well in some of these national polls that haven't been quite as bullish on him as some of the other resources that we get. So that's certainly a positive sign. Then also those 2 California polls, he was running away with things. Now, the other side is clearly a positive side for Joe Biden was the 2 South Carolina polls. That's the upcoming primary that we have. Both of them looked really good in this instance. And if Joe Biden can go on and win South Carolina in something by a decent margin, perhaps that gets him enough of a positive narrative to have a bit more success going in to Super Tuesday, which is more of a national primary type of scenario with 14 states holding their contests. And then there's also going to be 2 other contests that are not state specific, those being the contests of American Samoa as well as Democrats abroad. But there's going to be a ton of elections coming up here, really exciting stuff. And also I've made some updates to the pledged delegate tracker. As you can see, we have all of the upcoming contests going all the way until we hit March 17th results. You can see the date over here on the right-hand side, the number of pledged delegates that are up for grabs and pledged delegates that are still to be determined. And then also down here, we can see what percentage that each of these candidates have in terms of the current pledged delegates that have been divvied up and how close they're getting to the 1,991 needed to win on the first ballot at the convention. And thanks to the number of comments that I received in my last pledged delegate update video with some recommendations on things that I could do to improve the overall spreadsheet with all of these different data points to take a look at. So going to be making a ton of content over this next week as we head into the South Carolina primary. I have my final predictions for that, and then after that, it's a quick turnaround before we get into Super Tuesday. Going to be doing all of those predictions as well. That's going to likely be a pretty long video, so I hope to see you guys back here for all of that content, and consider subscribing for more.